That's it. We're never going to survive unless we're a little crazy. I think that says it all, doesn't it? Anyway, it's PK here. Monday morning. Look, pink shirt, jacket. Got dressed up. I'm leaving today for Europe, but for 6 weeks. But I just had to do this. It came to me last night. I thought I'd make one last video because I just love making these clips. Anyway, what are we going to talk about today on our episode of Out of the Box? Remember, living out of the box. Was trading gold and silver any different in 1982 when I started versus today? It's a fair question. I think many of us want to know what's the difference. It's been just about 40 years later? Not just close. So let me tell you how it all began, how this whole thing happened. I graduated at university at 22, University of Denver, in a real estate department, finance minor. And I thought I was going to work for my father in real estate. At that time, interest rates were 14, 15% going up. Real estate was going down. So I just happened to start my quote-unquote real estate career at the wrong time. I sat there for a few months doing nothing. My father's office made me crazy. Remember, I had zero interest in the trading. Took one class in college, Introduction to Finance. Could care less about the Wall Street, this whole thing. My father tells me, he says, PK, my microphone. This is what I want. Excuse me. You hear me better? Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. So my father comes to me one day, says, PK, I have somebody I want you to meet. I'm 22. He says, he works across from me in a penthouse office. He's 27, from London, a guy from the UK, millionaire, very rich. You're going to find him fascinating. He made it in gold and silver. Somebody was written up from the UK, came here to California, to where I worked. This is in Century City. So I go meet this guy. My father, we go out to lunch. He's a heavy-set guy from the UK, 27, suit, tie, expensive, the real expensive clothes, Rolex watch, had an unbelievable penthouse on a high level overlooking the West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and golf course. I mean, unbelievable. This guy had a style. He decides to take us out to lunch. He's driving a Rolls Royce. Now, you have to remember, I mentioned this before, back then, nobody under 30 had this money. No one does, even if you're grew up with rich parents, the parents never gave the money to the kids. They didn't want to ruin them and spoil them. It's nothing like today. We got billionaires who are 25, 30 in technology. So you didn't see this. And even the Hollywood stars, even the young people under 30, you just didn't see people with fancy cars in this lifestyle. This all happened maybe in the first internet wave in the mid-90s, late 90s. People started making this money. And we know what's happened in the last 20 years, especially the last, So anyway, I was so blown. I never seen anything like this. So, of course, he was by himself, and he offered me a job. He says, you can be my trading assistant, and I'll teach you gold and silver. I knew zero about it. Of course, I was so fascinated. I never seen. One other thing too. We went to his apartment. He had some 2-bedroom penthouse apartment also in Beverly Hills. I never saw a young person like this. He wasn't attractive. He was overweight, but he had it all. I mean. No one was like this guy. So, of course, PK, I'm interested in making money versus sitting in my father's office. So, actually, he gives me a job, and working for him, I had to get up. I had to be there at, I think, 5 o'clock in the morning. And this is California time. And so that's how it started. So let me give you my boss's background. He was you'll find this interesting. He's one of the original stackers of the 70s. one of these kids when he was 15, 16, collecting coins, silver and gold. He really was one of those stackers. One of the real original stackers, I want to tell you. And how did he make all his money? He caught the Hunt brothers run up when in the late 70s. You can look it up, man. I'm sure most of you know. This was really the first quote-unquote silver squeeze. Silver went all the way to $50. Gold went to around $8.50. And he made, he became very wealthy and wants to move to come to America and get clients. This type wanted to be an investment advisor. This is all of us who can make money. We all dream to be this, but he was the first person. So that was his background. So let me tell you what my typical work day was. Remember at that time when I started working, silver had already come down to around $11. I got my notes, remember, because I have no memory from the brain damage I got from brain aneurysm. Gold was around $5.50 and coming down from the high from the Hunt Brothers squeeze. And what did he trade? What did he focus on? He traded Krugerrands. That was the big thing, those South African 1-ounce gold coins. And with one of the largest coin dealers in California at that time. Now, who knows the name, but he did this, one, and two, he traded silver on the COMEX in New York on the futures contract. And what we had, and remember, in these days, he had a little squawk box, like a speakerphone on his desk that was hooked up. It was on, the market, I believed, opened, and then I don't remember the time. I forget the time. My mind's screwed up because I'm thinking about leaving today. The point is, he had the phone on the whole time. He had direct line to the pit at the silver ring the whole time with the squawk box. You can hear the trading and the people. Remember these days, maybe you've seen the videos, some Trading Places, the movie with Eddie Murphy, screaming. All this really went on, and you can tell when it's quiet, it's not moving, and everyone starts screaming, the price is moving up or down. And this is what he did. He also had a few clients that came in to day trade. And now you can say, day trading, really? Even back then? PK? I said, yeah. We had a few clients that came into the office. They'd sit in front of his desk. Remember, there was no charting at this time. You just had prices. People have their chart book and say their chart book and their daily chart, and they make these predictions. And so we had people who did that, and you can say, PK, what was the commission back then? How much did he charge? They would trade silver on the COMEX, and he could hear, what's going on. And then, of course, when he made the trade for the client, he did it over the phone. There was a reason, I won't go into it, but the commission was $100. $100 around turn. That's what it was back then. That's what he charged. And the other thing he did is as I said, he managed a couple of portfolios of only people who wanted to be in gold and silver. On the long side only. He would never go short because he made all his money long, as he knows. And the other thing he did, remember how to place stops. I learned from him. I watched him. He placed these stops on what was called the interbank market. They still have this today for currency. But back then, of course, it costs money. You could put that overnight stop in when the market's closed. And he did this too. So I watched this. So I did this and helped him, assisted. Watch him. He'd call me, get on the phone, say, buy me 50 Krugerrands, 100, 200. Over the phone. Of course, he never took delivery this time. He kind of traded the Krugerrands like a futures contract. But the interesting thing is, I never saw him. I worked there lasted for about 5-6 months. I never saw him one time buy the gold futures ever. He just maybe because he was a stacker really, and felt comfortable with the coins, as knows this market. Yet he traded the silver futures. So that's something I never quite understood. So this is really, what I did every day. Let's see. So how did it all end with this guy? Of course, you can imagine during these 5-6 months I worked for him, I never saw anybody, I mentioned this before, I never saw anybody make and lose so much money so quickly. And of course, I was hooked. I said, this is for me. Forget this real estate. You got to buy it, build it. It takes 2 years to find it before you can make any, make any money. It seems so boring. I'm telling you, as you know, trading, once you guys start, from trading, any type of trading, stocks, this, short term, the rush is unbelievable. And you can imagine, remember, I'm in LA. Nobody does this. I'm not in New York or Chicago. So how did it all end, PK? How did this whole thing come to an end? I watched him buy it all. Remember, I started silver was 11 and gold was around 550. He kept buying it all the way down for himself, for his clients. So you know what happened? Doubling up. I watched the guy go broke and lose all his money, lost his clients, and within 5-6 months, the guy disappeared. Left the office, everything. Went back to the UK, never heard from the guy again. But PK, I was hooked. That was it for me. I wanted to be in this business. So my father got me a job. I had connections at Bear Stearns, and I got my job in the commodity department as, again, assistant to the manager. And this exposed me to all the other commodities. And this is when I discovered I had some talent as a trader. Remember, I never saw these people in the office make any money day trading. Of course, they didn't have the charts and all the technology we have today. Anyway, so I started, going into the grains, pork bellies, and then what comes out? What is the really big, when I started in my second month I started, I think at Bear Stearns. All of a sudden, they're starting something that's called the S&P 500 Stock Index Future. And they thought this was going to be the next big thing. This came out in 82. You can look back in the history, and we know. Remember, there was no e-mini, nothing electronic. In fact, the size of the contract, of course, the number was much lower. I think the Dow in those days was, I don't know what it was, 1,200, 1,100, something down there. But the size of the contract was 5 times one big contract. I think they still trade the big contract today on the electronically. But you see, they over time, much time later, they have the mini, which is 1/5. But that's what it was. It's 5 times. That was one futures contract. And not only that, it traded in tenths, not in quarters like the S&P now, the future now. And so this is really, got me hooked. And then of course, I had my own firm. And I just, what can I tell you? It was just, it's amazing. This was so unbelievable about what happened to me. I traded the S&P the very first day it came out in existence, and then of course it caught on. It became very popular. Then they added the Dow futures and the NASDAQ, but the S&P was the first one. And your friend here, PK, just happened to be right time at the right place, and I was hooked. So anyway, let's see. Let me tell you too. What was the commission that we were charging over at Bear Stearns at that time? If you're a relatively active trader, remember there was very few. There really wasn't day trading per se back then, but the commission was about $56 because at this time discount firms were coming into play, advertising in the Wall Street Journal, so they were dropping. So I didn't. Of course, I realize now that my first job working for this guy from the UK, he was charging top price, but he was getting it because he had the incredible presentation. That's why I'm getting dressed up and people take me seriously instead of you seeing PK running around in his bathing suit, underwear, whatever. I am crazy out there. But remember, I'm in Florida. Why should I get dressed up? As you see my other videos, I still got I just came from the fitness actually. But anyway, so this is kind of, I've gone 15 minutes. And so this is how, I know what I was, of course, the name of the show, which is, what is it? Was trading any different in 82 versus now? And let me tell you what the difference is today to end this show. Number one, the volume is much bigger. Of course, so popular. What, I think 2 million contracts on the E-mini. On the S&P, I think the volume's 100,000, couple 100,000 in the futures contract, and the silver, the gold. I don't follow this so closely, though. I just know it's much bigger. But the interesting thing is, that, I've been asked, even though it was much smaller, close to 40 years ago, what was the spread? And I'm telling you, the spread was the same. Maybe a cent on the silver, half cent, 1 cent, depending on the time. Trading the gold futures, 100-ounce contract, that's all they had back then. They still have it today, as you know. Maybe it's 2 ticks, sometimes 3 ticks, 2 ticks, sometimes 1 tick. But that's what's so interesting about it is that the spread was no different. Of course, we know commissions are practically $5, $3, who knows, maybe free on some of these if you trade enough. And of course, the execution. This is another what else is a big, huge difference? Of course, my first boss, my first job, he had the squawk box direct to the floor, no picking, he started everything possible, and right to the desk where they hand signal it in, and you could buy at the market, buy at the bid. I mean, he had access to it. Of course, when I went to a major firm like Bear Stearns, it's no different. You had to call in the order, it goes to the desk, you have to write the ticket. The whole process took at least 5 minutes. Well, 5 minutes and it's a fast market. So, and you couldn't change the stop. They wouldn't let you. You couldn't keep canceling, replacing the stop because every time they got to write a ticket, and now push a button. It's instantaneous. It's for me, who's been around, it's mind blowing. Of course, it changed my life. It gave me the access to live all over, to live in Europe and live in Hawaii and all these things. So that's it. That's the instant execution. And I would say this: what about PK? What about the manipulation? This is a big. I get this question. What was it like trading that gold and silver in the beginning? Those first 6 months. Did you see I'm telling you. I'm sure you don't realize this because it's really true. There's much more manipulation now than there was 40 years ago. Maybe because of what's happening in the world and all these scandals, And I feel a little bit differently. And and for me, when you say silver manipulation, I'm not, I'm talking about really main thing. This has really been going on for years. Nothing new now is. Of course, the London metals fix, this has always been a rigged deal. People know in advance. And number 2, regarding the trading desk at the big firms, trading the silver and gold, the same with the stocks too. They're always front-running the clients. And if you know what this means, they know what the clients, their big clients, they're going to put them in. They buy before and get out and sell to the client, have a guaranteed profit. And if it drops dropping, they give it to the client. Of course, this is illegal, and people get caught. But you see, they get these big fines. But this is nothing new. Now, if we want to talk about the other type of manipulation for why you're with what's happening, and they're purposely keeping the price down, Peaky doesn't. I don't buy that argument. I'm not a believer. I still think it's a free market. And I know what a lot of you believe. I happen not to believe that. But yes, no question. That's irrelevant. The question is, there really is more manipulation overall in general, at least for sure the perception. Nobody back then thought there was any manipulation. They all thought the Hunt brothers, that's it. They lost their money. They got in trouble, so fine. So back then, no one thought about this market manipulation. Maybe it was the big secret. They've been doing it the whole time, but there wasn't a perception out there. And of course, today the other difference is you can place the stops, move your stops on your own. If you use stops, you should use stops. I've talked about this before. It's very easy. You could not do this when I started in the first couple of years. They'd let you move it once, twice max if you want to move that stop. Because they got to write the ticket, call it in. The guy has to write the order on the desk and then run to the guy who is holding the deck. I'm talking about the futures contracts, the futures trading on the COMEX. So in that regard, today is much easier. Between the commissions lower and the changing your stops, and you've got this incredible act. You have to pick up the phone. You have instant execution, I call it. And as I said, of course, very low commission, I think, and practically free commission trading on the stocks. So anyway, I think I've gone long enough. I try to keep it short, but I had a lot to say. It's gone 21 minutes. This PK here with our episode of Out of the Box. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, you can always write me. I'm leaving today for Europe. Of course, I'll be making your videos over there. I'm leaving by this afternoon, going for 6 weeks, but I will be continuing. Of course, I'm trading. So let's see what happens today. This is PK. Wish you having a great day. And remember, the end of the deal. Always live out of the box. Just don't think it. Ciao, you guys.